Thank you very much, John. Penelope's got too much time on his hands if he's remembering the announcements that I made in high school. Probably don't remember what he had for breakfast this morning, but thank you for that, John, and John is my friend. So thank you for the invitation of being here. And Trent, thank you for your kind words about Edmund Miller. You know, since I was here last time, we've lost Brother Edmund and Avery Dimmock, and two people that were very special to me. One, a great preacher, and one who would never be accused of being a preacher because he was a lawyer. But they were both dear friends. In fact, I have a little trivia here that many of you probably don't know. My middle name is Edmund because in high school, my dad and Edmund Miller were best friends. So I wasn't worthy of being named after him, but that's what it is, and so I accept that. Thank you, Paige. I want to thank you and your team here at the Chamber for all the work that you do all year round to promote this community and welcome visitors. You know, a strong and effective chamber can't make things happen all on their own, but a strong and effective chamber creates an environment and nurtures small businesses and entrepreneurs in the community. And I don't know anyone that does it better than Paige Green. So thank you very much for all of you do. Paige and I are working on some projects, and I've worked on projects, and I wish I could announce one of them today, but I'll be back. Not today. I'm teasing with you with it today. But I'll be back in about 6 or 8 weeks, and we'll talk about that. But suffice it to say that Gilmer County is going to be on the cutting edge of our efforts in Georgia to revitalize rural Georgia, and I'm very proud of that, and I hope you will be too. We've got a lot to be proud of, and it is gratifying to see that people are learning, thanks to the Chamber, that our mountains are a great place to live, to work, and to visit. And that's why we call it home. And I will tell you, it is always good to be back home. But especially after this past session, challenging but productive, home never meant as much as it has after this session. I want to talk a little bit about what we accomplished during the session, and because I think that we have kept the ball going in terms of growing a business-friendly Georgia. You know, we have now for 6 years running been rated the #1 state in the nation in which to do business. I'm hopeful when those rankings come out again in September, I think it is, that we will make it 7. I can't go through everything that we did, but I do want to touch on a few highlights that I think that will make a difference to you and your families. I always like to start with the bright spot. And one of the brightest points of this past session was in our state budget when we appropriated a $3,000 per year pay raise for every public school teacher and certified educator in Georgia. We are making Georgia more competitive in terms of educator pay, and have made a down payment on Governor Kemp's pledge to raise teacher salaries in Georgia by $5,000 a year during his first term in office. I was proud to support the governor's commitment to our dedicated teachers who work every day to help our children grow and succeed. And I'm even more proud that through conservative budgeting, we were able to reward our teachers without increasing your taxes. Another area that we made tremendous progress on this year is something I'm very proud of, and that was with implementing more of the recommendations of our House Rural Development Council. That council has met in rural communities across the state the last 2 years, stopping both here in LJ, they've met here, they've met in Blue Ridge, they've met in Dalton, they've met from Bainbridge North, finding ways to encourage job growth in rural Georgia. This year, one area they focused on was rural broadband. On their recommendation, we passed and Governor Kemp signed into law a measure to make it easier for our EMCs to provide broadband in underserved rural communities in Georgia. You know, not everyone is fortunate enough to get their broadband from companies like ETC. We want to ensure that your access to broadband isn't limited by your zip code. Because in today's economy, not having access to reliable, high-speed internet service also cuts you off from online learning, telemedicine, and e-commerce. And I'm very, very proud of the work of the House Rural Development Council. They will begin another year's work next Monday with a planning meeting in Forsyth. And I'm very happy to say to this group today that the coordinator of the council for the next 2 years is from here in LJ, Holly Pitcock. Where are you, Holly? I know she's going to do a great, great job, and I'm pleased that she has taken on what is a big job. I'm proud of her. I have my communications director, Caleb McMicken, here today too. Boy, he's gone through combat. We'll talk about that later. But I have to mention that every so often, as proud as I am of what the House has done, that we do get help from the other chamber. And I wish that my friend Steve Gooch were here to hear me say good things about it. He wouldn't believe it. But I have to commend Senator Gooch for the leadership that he has shown on improving our rural broadband infrastructure. He's a great partner, and I'm proud to have worked with him on this important issue. Ron mentioned health care. I want to turn now to health care, which is a subject that impacts each and every Georgian. We took some important steps this year to bringing about what I hope will be a healthier Georgia. First, we passed Governor Kemp's Patients First Act. This measure will allow the state of Georgia to craft a Georgia-designed Medicaid waiver program to meet the needs of our growing state. Our belief is that a cookie-cutter approach that can supposedly fit all 50 states is not acceptable. But I want to be crystal clear here. This is not traditional Medicaid expansion. One of the pitfalls of that approach is that the state is on the hook for funding that the federal government may or may not choose to provide every year. We have worked too hard to budget wisely to take on such a hefty liability with no recourse if the federal government decides not to pay their share. And let me remind you, this is the same federal government that still hasn't gotten around to funding relief for the victims of Hurricane Michael in southwest Georgia. A Medicaid waiver program allows us to work with the federal government to find a solution that is fiscally responsible while at the same time ensuring more of our neediest citizens have basic health care. It is a solution that makes sense, and I want to applaud Governor Kemp for taking the lead on developing this policy, and we look forward to working with him over the coming year as we design a Medicaid program in Georgia that is designed by Georgians for Georgians. Another non-traditional approach that we have taken to health care involves something a little more controversial, and that's the strictly regulated cultivation and distribution of low THC oil to patients who have one of the prescribed and specified medical needs. Since we passed the Haley's Hope Act in 2015, Georgians have been in an unusual situation of being able to use but not purchase this oil in state. They've had to risk federal prosecution to obtain the oil and get it to a loved one here in Georgia, and I believe that is unacceptable. Georgia's Hope Act, which was recently signed into law, will allow Georgians to obtain this medicine in a way that is carefully monitored and overseen by state authorities. I know that some in our law enforcement community had concerns about the slippery slope effect, and I appreciate their concerns, and we've talked about those concerns. But let me restate here today that I remain opposed, adamantly opposed to recreational drug use, and as long as I have the honor of representing you and standing at that podium in the House of Representatives, that is a reality that is frankly off the table. The last issue I'll mention was in the news just a couple of days ago as Governor Kemp signed the Life Act into law, which you may know as the heartbeat bill. This measure makes it illegal to have an abortion in Georgia once the unborn baby has a detectable heartbeat, with limited exceptions including risk to the life of the mother or a medically futile pregnancy. Now let me say I realize this is a very contentious issue. It's one with strong emotions and strong feelings on both sides, and I respect that. However, we've seen other states embark on barbaric pursuits that would legalize abortion even after a baby has been delivered. Just so we're on the same page, let me repeat that. An abortion after a baby has been delivered. Now, I don't go around knocking Hollywood, but I have to tell you, I got a letter from some movie stars, about 40 of them, and they were asking me not to bring that bill up for a vote. My first question was, where were you in New York State when you passed a bill that legalized abortion after 9 months? I didn't get an answer to that. I believe that we couldn't bear to see Georgia follow such radical and frankly dangerous thinking. With Governor Kemp's leadership, we stood up for the sanctity of life. I'm sure that measure will be litigated in the federal courts, and we will wait to see the outcome of that litigation, as it probably will go along with the acts of other states to the United States Supreme Court for a final determination. But we have done our part in Georgia to protect those who truly cannot protect themselves, and I'm proud of that. With your support and encouragement, I'm proud to continue fighting for the kind of sensible policies that move our state forward. Georgia is a growing and prosperous state, and working together, we're going to keep winning for years to come. Now, I've got a few more minutes. Before I finish, I want to ask you if you would to indulge me a couple of minutes of personal time. I told Paige when I got here, this is the first group in the district that I've had the honor of speaking to since session was over. So y'all are special. I knew that anyway. You know, I knew when I ran for this position that there would be tough days. I was prepared for that. I also knew that every day that I would live under a microscope and be scrutinized, and I was prepared for that. I knew that my work and my actions would reflect on my family, my friends, and the people I represent, and I was prepared for that. and I have tried to serve honorably in a way that would not discredit or embarrass my family or you. And if you feel that I've fallen short, then I am profoundly sorry and would welcome an opportunity to talk to you. Some of you may be aware that now for almost 4 months, some in the Atlanta media and some who make their living doing what I wish I could do, talking into a microphone every day without any regard for the truth or without any consequences to the words that come out of their mouths. And they have pounded on the way I handle my private law practice relentlessly. I have accepted responsibility for any mistakes that I have made, and we have both changed our laws and I have changed the way I do my private business out of an abundance of caution and to try to be fair and transparent. But let me be very clear. The ones leading this chorus didn't just take up this 4 months ago. They've been beating on me now for years. You know, Sheree and I have a friend that shares Bible verses with us by text occasionally. And she's been sending me a lot lately, and it says, you know, let me remind you that vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And let him fight your battles. Well, I'm going to start that tomorrow. Not today. Because these people have now crossed the line. They crossed the line. You know, they can take all the shots at me they want to with smears and their outrageous statements. But when they go after my friends by defaming them, including some of the finest judges that I know in this state and that serve you locally and that have gone from serving here to the Court of Appeals, and when they defame prosecutors that serve you locally because they happen to be people that I know, then I can't be silent anymore, and I'm not going to be. Here's the kind of mindset that they have. A few days ago, one of them even took to social media to blame the good people of the 7th House District by writing this: his constituents are weak and would rather have a friend who is powerful than a principled lawmaker who has less power. I guess Christmas card lists are important, y'all. That's the kind of attitude. This sounds like the basket of deplorables, don't it? But it came out of the mouth of somebody who would tell you that they're conservative and Republican. Well, let me point out that the leading example of a principled lawmaker to this person and to the group that they're associated with votes with the Democratic caucus in the House more than 45% of the time. So somebody's got the principles all wrong here. But I will not condone by silence this kind of behavior and this mindset. So let me just say this. I'm not going to get into the specifics. If you want to know the truth of the allegations, then I want to commend to you not the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and not WSB-TV, owned by the same people whose owner gives money to every liberal in this country. But go up to Blue Ridge and pick up a copy of this week's News Observer, where the editor of that paper spent 2 weeks poring through the courthouse records, looking at this continuance issue to find out, were they right or were they wrong I was to come in first in this judicial circuit for continuances. I'm right in the average. But what didn't you read in the Atlanta media? No comparison. No comparison. Just dramatic, sensationalized stories. But I do commend that to you. Because it is just very factual. Nothing exciting. Nothing sexy. Nothing terribly interesting. You know, I went to the well of the House on February the 25th when this issue first sort of came up. And I told my colleagues, you know, that this ride that we are on as House members will come to an end for all of us one day. And when it does, you know what's going to happen? Nobody's going to remember how you voted. Nobody's going to remember a speech you gave, and they probably won't remember for long what you tried to do for your community. If they remember anything, it's going to be your reputation. Your reputation. So I kind of told them that, you know, I will be content if Cherie and Elizabeth and Matt can say, you know, he tried to do what was right, and he didn't try to tear somebody down with lies, and they can say he was independent as an old cuss, and he was not beholden to any special interest. And he did not run, and he didn't hide, and he loved and lived by the words of Winston Churchill to the British people in one of their darkest hours. We will never, 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 never give up, and we won't quit. Thank you. May God bless you, and may He bless the great state of Georgia. Thank you very much.